You didn't start this, did you? Did you start it already? Okay, next mind control technique. By the way, before I go on to that, I also want to add an example of the love bombing and relationship control and them maneuvering your life by maximizing your contact with cult members. They usually do this. They usually do this by having meetings almost every day, either for worship or whatever the purpose of their group is, and or for fellowship. And you'll find yourself doing things almost every day. It's almost like you have no life outside the cult. So don't ever get involved in the cult, Michael. They might make you give up Special Olympics.
No one could anyway.
I'm joking. I know you're okay. And after you learn this from me, you'll have more than enough ammo to protect yourself with.
Yeah.
Now the next technique is information control. Those who control the information control the person. In a mind control cult, any information from outside the cult is considered evil, especially if it is opposing the cult. Members are told not to read it or believe it. Only information supplied by the cult is true. For instance, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're only allowed to read Watchtower publications. And the what's their Bible translation called? I think it's called the New World Translation. And anyways, that's the only one they're allowed to read, but a mainstream one like this, no. One cult labels any information against it as persecution or spiritual pornography. Like, for instance, when Joseph Smith was alive, anybody who came against the founder of Mormonism, he labeled all the people who opposed him as persecutors. And he even did this to his own father-in-law, by the way. But I will go more into this stuff when I discuss Mormonism. Another cult calls it apostate literature and will expel you from the group if you are caught with it. Jehovah's Witnesses, and I think ICC does that too. Cults train their members to instantly destroy any critical information given to them, and to not even entertain the thought that the information could be true. Common sense tells us that a person who does not consider all information may make an unbalanced decision, filtering the information available or trying to discredit it not on the basis of how true it is, but rather on the basis of how it supports the party line. It's a common control method used throughout history. Two key points here. If you are instructed by a group not to read information critical of the group, then that is a sure sign of a cult. And the next one, legitimate groups have nothing to fear from their members reading critical information about them, and generally they can handle questions. And I want to say this, in a mainstream church, even like Baptist and Methodist, there may be some ministers that may get an attitude with you if you ask them where something is in Scripture that they brought up. But usually that has nothing to do with the denomination. It usually has to do with the fact that they're just self-righteous, prideful prudes. But that's not a common thing in most Christian denominations, at least mainstream ones. At least that's been my experience. But in the cult ones, you'll find it's very common that you better not question any of them if you want to survive in their little cult. Like I would want to, but hey. The next one is a reporting structure. In a mind Jethro cult, like in Nazi Germany or Communist Russia, you must be very careful of what you say and do. The walls have ears, is a quote. Everyone is encouraged to watch out for, quote, struggling brothers and sisters and report what they see to leadership. Often, information given in deepest confidence is automatically reported to leadership. Cult leaders will then use this information to convince their members that they have a supernatural link. The trusting member does not suspect the very natural mechanism behind the supernatural revelations they are given. The leaders knew this about me? They never suspect, why, that dirty, rotten, they told my innermost thoughts? No, they won't suspect that. Because they're my friends. They would never do that to me. Right. People in a mind control cult will also hide their true thoughts and feelings, and instead wear a mask which presents them as a perfect cult member. This mask is a defense against being reported to leadership and being punished for not measuring up. Cult members never feel like they measure up to the cult's ideals, and yet often believe the other members around them do, when in reality the others feel the same as them. Hence, cult members are trained not only to deceive outsiders, but also to deceive their fellow cult members, like in that Holiness Pentecostal place I told you about. Rarely can true close friendships form in cults, and if they do, the cult's leaders may see them as a threat and move those people away from each other. Nothing is allowed that can be more powerful than the cult member's allegiance to the group and its leaders. Like if you think you have a close friendship, you may find that they aren't talking to you as much, and very likely it's because the leader intimidated them that they better not get so close to you, or they're going to find you and that, or they're going to find them leaving the group, by golly. So key point, is information you expected to be kept confidential reported to leadership? If so, then it's a cult. In other words, if you told somebody something in confidence and the leaders approach you with it, they don't have a supernatural link, honey. Your confidentiality was breached. Because their allegiance to their leader is more important than their friendship to you. I don't care how they try to paint it, it's the truth. And the last one is time control. I alluded to this earlier. Mind control cults keep their members so busy with meetings and activities that they become too busy and too tired to think about their involvement. Time control also helps the cult keep their members immersed in the manufactured cult environment, and time control helps keep cult members away from family and friends. Never-ending compulsory meetings and tasks, you'll go to hell if you don't come, you won't succeed, etc., etc., is a sign of a cult. Together they make mind control. People are not perfect, but if they employ them constantly, you're most likely dealing with a cult. So those are all the mind control techniques. And now I want to briefly go into pressure selling. One of the most common forms of commercial cults, this is commercial cults specifically, is the pressure selling organization. These groups ostensibly make money by selling goods via their sales organization, but in reality they make their money by selling goods and motivational materials to their sales organization. Using mind control, they seek to enlarge and maintain their sales force and hence their profits. Some names along with the bad reputations of these groups are well known to the general public, so the recruiters need to be very deceptive. They will call and ask to come and meet you to discuss a, quote, business opportunity or new, quote, e-commerce venture, not once mentioning the organization behind it. In fact, if asked, they might mention a completely different name. In other words, they outright lie. Meeting with them will involve a long, intense presentation carefully designed to convince you that you can make a lot of money by following their plan. Only near the end will they briefly mention the real organization behind it. Here are some key warning signs to watch out for. Deception. No valid business needs to use deception. Super hyped meetings, books, tapes, videos, leaflets, products, and use of mind control. Refer to the earlier mind control section. Now, mind you, I know commercials use these things, but business cults are a lot more sophisticated than even commercials. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Here are some key questions to ask the recruiter. Is it XZY group? Ask them if they are or are involved with any of the well-known commercial cults. Often the recruiter will admit to some connection, and in fact the clever recruiter will plainly state their involvement rather than having their deception uncovered later on, because they know that if you told them a direct lie at the beginning, you're more likely to leave. And the second question is, could I see some properly certified, audited accounts which demonstrate this business model working? Like any business, real business, they should be able to provide the hard numbers, not stories of other people making it big or supposed stories that they most likely made up, or generalizations about six-figure incomes, or more enthusiastic claims that you can make it if you work hard enough. If this is a new business, then you want a business plan, profit and loss projections for the next year, 2 years, and 5 years. If they claim it is a successful established business, then demand to see the books. These are not unreasonable demands. No successful business person would ever touch a venture without this basic information. Tell the recruiter that you want to run them past your own accountant and perhaps your lawyer too. If it's for real, then they will be more than happy to comply. Otherwise, watch them squirm and dodge with all manner of well-rehearsed excuses for why they can't let you do that or whatever. Of course, if they do produce the information, then you should still go to your accountant. You're a fool if you don't. And so, that's it. And now some cult recruiting techniques and a few other words, and then I will be done for the day. Here are some key warning signs that may indicate a cult is trying to recruit you. Hyped meetings. Rather than explain to you what the group believes or what their program is up front, they will instead insist that you can only understand it if you come to a group meeting. Like, for instance, I have some friends who have a husband whose wife is Jehovah's Witness, and her husband asked to see a copy of the Jehovah's Witness Bible, and she was told that he was not allowed to see it because he wasn't a member of the Jehovah's Witnesses, that he had to start coming to the meetings and be a member before he could actually see it, and that he had to have a more beginner's Jehovah's Witness Bible, which alludes to what I told you earlier about deception, among other things. And there, everyone around you will seem so enthusiastic that you will start to think there is something wrong with you. They create an environment where you will feel uncomfortable, and the only way to become comfortable is to join them. This is an application of controlled peer pressure. intensive, unrelenting pressure. They call repeatedly, meet you on campus or outside your work without your permission, trick you into coming for only an hour. This will only be an hour, and then it'll turn into a long study, meeting, or talk. They have to keep the pressure on, otherwise you might snap out of the mind control environment they are trying to immerse you in. And they will tell you up front that they are not a cult. This is a preemptive strike against the warnings from friends and family members which they know will come. In fact, some cults go as far to tell you that Satan will try to dissuade you by sending family members and friends to tell you it is a cult. And an example of that is example number 3, where I had experience where he said that after I got baptized in the way they thought it should be done, is when Satan most tries to trick you and get you away from the faith. And he said that to me shortly before I told him of my disagreement, and then he resorted to ad hominem attacks because he couldn't answer a simple argument. When this tactic is used, they often use a warped form of logic that occurs in the recruit's mind. The agents of Satan do come and tell them it is a cult. When this tactic is used, then often a warped form of logic occurs in the recruit's mind, the person they're trying to recruit, basically. And these agents of Satan, their family and friends who actually do love them, come and tell them it's a cult. So since the group predicted that would happen, the group therefore must be true. Everything they say must be true, because they predicted it. Basically, if any group tells you that they are not a cult, or that some people call them a cult, then for goodness sake find out why. Research the other side. Key point: research the group independently of the group. And the times they will try to recruit you, or the ways they'll recruit you, is times you are vulnerable. Like if you grew up being rejected, or you just experienced your parents being divorced, they'll go after that. Like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have Watchtower literature specifically for step families and how they can learn to get along with each other, and how the Jehovah's Witnesses will always be there to help you. I saw a piece of literature, experiential rather than logical, fake friendship. They're basically only your friends as long as you're there. In a real church, you usually can keep friendships even if you're not going to the same church. But not in a cult. No. End of world pressure to do crazy things, and secret knowledge, like Gnostics. And, yep. And, the key warning signs are single, charismatic leader, people always seeming constantly happy and enthusiastic, especially if you discover that they have been told to act that way for the potential new recruits. Instant friends, if you are told who you can or cannot talk or associate with. They hide what they teach, say they are the only true group or the best, so why go anywhere else. Hyped meetings, get you to meetings rather than share with you. Experiential rather than logical. Asking for money for the next level, usually more than the last. Some cults travel door to door during times when women are home alone. They, and this is rather sexist, think that women are easier to recruit, and once they have the woman, then it will be easier to snare the husband or partner, and saying that they have to make people pay for it because otherwise they will not appreciate it. This is, of course, a very silly reason. Plenty of people are able to appreciate things which they did not pay for. What?
Cut.
Yeah.